Hello, this is Father Bill Watson, and this is a question for our YouTube channel, Ask Father Bill. And we've been covering the question, do you believe in Marian apparitions? And I said, by all means. And this is our fifth one, and it's the incredible story of Catherine Laboure and the Miraculous Medal. So in the 1830s in Paris, the woman, Catherine Laboure, wanted to be a nun, but her father disapproved. So she was sent off to work in her brother's pub as a distraction. She worked at a bar. Men made inappropriate comments and gestures at her. In her spare time, Catherine visited the Sisters of Charity, housed in a side street convent, to volunteer and serve the poor. Just behind the Bon Marché, the oldest department store in Paris, you can find this church. From its appearance, you wouldn't expect there is a church hidden in this building, but it is one of the most important places of prayer and Catholic pilgrimage in all of Paris and all of France. On Catherine's first visit, while waiting in the parlor of the convent, she saw a large portrait of an old priest hung on the wall. She immediately recognized the face as one she had seen in a dream years before. In her dream, she was assisting him at Mass. He kept holding her gaze, making her feel uncomfortable. She eventually ran from the church and stopped at the home of a sick person. The old priest was there also, and he said to her, "You flee from me now, but one day you will be glad to come to me." In the convent parlor, she calmly asked a sister the name of the priest in the portrait, to which the sister replied, "Why, my child, this is our holy founder, St. Vincent de Paul." Catherine eventually joined this order, a strong and thriving community of sisters. She took their costume-like habit, to which modern eyes look more like a funny white-winged newspaper hat. The Sisters of Charity had such a visually and affecting strong presence in Europe at the time that even the Muslims had a tenderness towards them, calling them the swallows of heaven. Because of the remarkable headdress, they were also known as God's geese. Soon after, Catherine started receiving various visions, including some of St. Vincent's heart and Christ the King. But for today, we're just going to focus on her encounters with Our Lady. Catherine had a great love for Mary from an early age. At the age of 9, she lost her earthly mother. It is reported that when she thought no one was looking, she pulled a chair up to where she could reach the family statue of the Blessed Mother. She threw her arms around the statue and exclaimed, "Now you will be my mother." As a sister in the convent, Catherine told her patron, St. Vincent, of her strong desire to see the Blessed Virgin with her own eyes. One night she was awakened by a small child who led her to the chapel. It was all lit up like midnight mass, Catherine recalled, and the child stopped in front of a director's chair used for conferences. Instinctively, Catherine knelt. She waited, then heard the sound of swishing silk as a lady approached and sat in the chair. And the child instructed, "This is the Blessed Virgin." Of all the privileged humans to see Our Lady, from St. Juan Diego of Our Lady of Guadalupe to St. Bernadette Soubirous, Our Lady of Lourdes, Catherine is the only one known to have touched her. She knelt beside her chair and put her hands and head in her lap and poured out her heart with tears of a little girl. Our Lady listened and offered words of wisdom and strength for all that Catherine would have to undergo, and warnings of the future of the world, and France in particular. Mary said to Catherine, "Come to the foot of the altar. There graces will be shed upon all, great and little, who ask for them. Graces will be especially shed upon those who ask for them." The next time Catherine saw Our Lady, it was during her daytime prayers. Mary was in the sanctuary, shining like a sunrise, and Catherine stayed on her knees, noting every detail in bliss. Our Lady's robe was silk and white like the dawn. She wore a long veil with a lovely lace head wrapped beneath it. She held in her hands a golden ball, which she offered to God. Suddenly her hands were resplendent with rings set with precious stones that shone brilliantly, and the lights coming from them fell upon the white globe at her feet. Mary said to her, "The ball which you see represents the whole world, and each person in particular." As she spoke, the rays became blinding. Mary continued, "These rays symbolize the graces I shed upon those who ask for them. The gems from which rays do not fall are the graces for which souls forget to ask." Catherine saw the words, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." Mary instructed her to have a medal formed, showing her what the backside was to look like, with 12 stars bordering the hearts of Jesus and Mary, and with an M with a bar and a cross. And she told her this: "All who wear it will receive great graces. They should wear it around the neck. Graces will abound for persons who wear it with confidence." When Catherine told her spiritual director, Father Jean-Marie Aladel, about what she had seen and heard, he wanted to take every precaution to ensure that the apparitions were authentic. It wasn't until he spoke to the Archbishop of Paris and received his approval that medals were made. The task was initially entrusted to Adrien Jean Maximilien Vachette, one of the local jewelers of Louis XVIII's court, in June of 1832. He started by producing 2,000 medals. The Daughters of Charity began wearing them and giving them to the elderly and the sick. Almost immediately, miraculous healings, cures, and conversions occurred. People began clamoring for the medal, originally called the Medal of the Immaculate Conception. Before long, people were calling it the Miraculous Medal. The medal quickly spread throughout France and then the world. Everyone wanted the medal that Mary had brought from heaven. Not only did the Archbishop of Paris request some of the first medals, Pope Gregory XVI put one at the foot of the crucifix on his desk. The demand for the medals became so great that between 1832 and 1836, Vachette made more than 2 million of them. 11 other engravers began producing medals in Paris as well. In 1846, 16 years after the Miraculous Medal was shown to Catherine, the bishops of the United States unanimously declared Mary Immaculate as patroness of the country. And while Mary's purity had long been held as a truth of the Church, it had not been infallibly proclaimed. The Miraculous Medal helped pave the way for that step by promoting devotion to Mary, who was conceived without sin. Indeed, the medal is a condensed catechism of Mary. On it, we see her as the woman who crushes the serpent's head in Genesis and the woman clothed with the sun in Revelation. We see the hearts of Jesus and Mary united at the cross. The wording confirming Mary's purity circles around her, and the rays from her hands depict her as the dispenser of God's graces. So it wasn't a surprise when, on December 8th, 1854, the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, a belief long held by patristic fathers and saints over the millennia, was officially defined and declared by the Church. Of all the countless conversions affected by wearing the Miraculous Medal, perhaps the most famous at the time, because it was the object of an official canonical investigation, was that of Alphonse Ratisbonne in 1842. Alphonse was the heir of a wealthy Jewish banking family, and his father was the president of the Provincial Council of Alsace. Alphonse was also a cynic with no faith whatsoever, with an abiding hatred of the Catholic religion. Due to a unique circumstance, Alphonse found himself wearing a miraculous medal around his neck and reciting the Memorare of St. Bernard for the explicit purpose of proving to a Catholic acquaintance that it would not bring about his conversion. The event of Ratisbonne's conversion is nearly as sudden and dramatic as that of St. Paul's in the New Testament. This quote is from the account of Baron de Bussiers, the acquaintance who induced Alphonse to wear the medal. De Bussiers, having business with some of the monks, had left a disdainful Alphonse in the chapel of a church in Rome. After about 10 minutes' absence, the Baron returned to the chapel. He said, "When I came back into the church, I saw nothing of Ratisbonne for a moment. And then I caught sight of him on his knees in front of the chapel of St. Michael. I went up to him and touched him 3 or 4 times before he became aware of my presence. At length he turned towards me, his face bathed in tears, joined his hands and said, with an expression no words will render, "Oh, how this gentleman has prayed for me." This wild emotion became gradually more calm. He begged me to take him to a confessor and wanted to know when he might receive holy baptism. I took him immediately to see Father de Villefort, who begged him to explain himself. Then Ratisbonne drew forth his medal, kissed it, showed it to us, and exclaimed, "I have seen her, I have seen her." And his emotion again choked his utterance. But soon he regained his calmness and made his statement. This is a quote. "I had been but a few moments in the church when I was suddenly seized with an unutterable agitation of mind. I raised my eyes. The building had disappeared from before me. One single chapel had, so to speak, gathered and concentrated all the light. And in the midst of this radiance, I saw standing on the altar, lofty, clothed with splendor, full of majesty and sweetness, the Virgin Mary, just as she is represented on my medal. An irresistible force drew me towards her. The Virgin made a sign with her hand that I should kneel down, and then she seemed to say, 'That will do.' She spoke not a word, but I understood all. Though she had said nothing, this hardened unbeliever of just moments before now understood all. He understood far more than those who take the faith for granted, even to a profound understanding of the mystery of the crucifixion. At his baptism, Ratisbonne added Mary, to his name to reflect the role that he felt she had played in his life. In June of that same year, he entered the Society of Jesus and was ordained a priest in 1848. His conversion, although spectacular and widely publicized, was but a sample of the many thousands of lesser-known wonders wrought by the wearing of Our Lady's great sacramental, the Miraculous Medal. Nor was its use meant to be limited to another place in former time. Today, 2 million pilgrims make their way to the Miraculous Medal Chapel, where the Blessed Mother first appeared to St. Catherine on the Rue du Bac in Paris in 1830. Only about 10 of the original medals exist, and one is at this chapel. Over 1 billion medals have been produced since the originals. I was privileged to be with Mother Teresa in Washington, D.C. on her very last visit to the United States. It was shortly before that she and Princess Diana passed away. And it was for the occasion of the vows of her sisters in Washington. It was the first group that had come to Washington, D.C. And I was with Mother after the Mass, and she poured into my hand a huge handful of little miraculous medals of all different sizes, some silver, some gold, but they were all just, inexpensive metal. But I still have many of them. And I was always kind of astounded that she would give those, but it must have meant something. So I keep those, and I also wear a miraculous medal around my neck. So you please consider getting a miraculous medal and wearing it as well. There's no superstition, nothing of magic connected with the miraculous medal. The miraculous medal is not a good luck charm. Rather, it is a great testimony to faith and the power of trusting prayer. Remember, Mary said people need to ask her for the graces. Its greatest miracle are those of patience, forgiveness, repentance, and faith. God uses the medal not as a sacrament, but as an agent, an instrument in bringing to pass certain marvelous results. The weak things of this earth God hath chosen to confound the strong. Wearing the medal will also remind you to have recourse to your Blessed Mother in all situations of your life. And she who promised to shower graces upon us will hear our prayers, and miracles of grace will be possible to those who have recourse to her. When our Blessed Mother gave the design of the medal to St. Catherine Laboure, she said, "Now it must be given to the whole world and to every person." The Association of the Miraculous Medal in Perryville, Missouri, carries out Our Lady's request in many ways, including offering you a free Miraculous Medal. You can get the free medal by following the link below the video. Catherine lived in obscurity all her life, only revealing just before she died that she was the woman whom the Blessed Mother entrusted with the message and the medal's design of the now famous Miraculous Medal. May we too be given the grace of a humble and simple faith in service of Our Lady and the Lord. O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for those of us who have recourse to thee. And I hope that helps.